Now everything works. They can hear me, you can hear me. I won't touch anything now. The other guy's invisible because he is not here. He is at home, but that's the great Rune Holm who is with me. Hi, Rune.
Hello there.
I'm gonna read up some of the questions, and then I'm just gonna kick back and play some Trailmakers, and Rune can laugh a bit about how bad I am at it, and you guys can as well. And meanwhile, he can get to answer the questions that you guys have. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right, here we go. First question comes from Musa. How do you guys feel about a big part of the community wanting the addition of tank tracks? What are the challenges of adding them?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's an excellent suggestion for the game, and we are also very interested in adding that. Like you can see that a lot of people are building tanks, and I have built one or two in my time as well, so I can certainly relate to that. But as you can see, it's not in the game yet. So there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, we are making tons of different things. You can do so many things in the game. But secondly, perhaps also more importantly, for this in particular, because we like it so much, is that it's also quite difficult to do. For comparison, I think you can sort of imagine that any kind of implementation of tank threads would be similar to having a bunch of wheels. And if you look at the complexity count of wheels in the game currently, it's already very high. And another example of that is the ski block we have that is actually built as 2 wheels. Thus, it has twice the complexity cost of a normal wheel. So there's a lot of challenges in getting the performance to be good enough and to be able to achieve the target that the players want, right? And I also have a feeling that there's different requests here. Some people want to have a system where you can just put in some wheels and they'll magically connect, and other people would be fine with some should we say pre-made designs where you have a certain size of thread. So yeah. I hope that sort of covers it. It's a long description, I think.
It would in general be very nice if you could just make things magically work in a game, right?
Yeah.
Like let's just do this and then do it with no issues at all.
Yeah, I guess AI still has a bit of way to go before that can happen, but yeah.
Until then, I trust you guys more than AI.
Yeah. I mean, we are doing our best to improve the game, and we try to select the things where we think there's more bang for the buck for the players. And so far, tank threads hasn't been up there because of the complexity.
Right.
That's it.
There you have it. Next question comes from Mr. Smith, who says, "Dear devs, if there was one creation each that you wish that your community could build for you, what is it?" Oh, that's... I've actually asked the other day of a picture of Jonas Vingegaard. Oh no, I don't have it on this PC. But Glomer went ahead and made a diorama of Jonas Vingegaard after his 2 consecutive Tour de France victories.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the best creations I've seen in the game, and I've seen a lot.
It's really awesome, and I know Les is specifically asked for a calzone at one point, and someone made that as well. So, yeah, I mean, from there you got Jonas Vingegaard and calzone. Those are the type of things that devs wants.
Indeed. Yeah, so I was gonna say something way more boring. I was gonna say that it's hard to pick your favorite, but I have some good suggestions for vehicles that I love. There's the A10 Warthog, there's the SR-71 Blackbird, and the Nebuchadnezzar from the Matrix, and of course Star Wars is jam-packed with all kinds of crazy, cool vehicles. So that would be hard for me to narrow down to one thing.
Did you not see the someone made for the last build challenge, for the Pride challenge, someone made the Nebuchadnezzar?
Yeah, maybe I did. But I will say that's also the negative side to these suggestions is that I think I've seen them all, and I've seen some really good versions of those. I don't think I've seen enough, so please continue to make these. But yeah, so that's sort of the straightforward response. But I think actually what I prefer the most is to see some truly unique creations, such as the one that you have on stream
like this
right
one
now.
right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm really here for. That's the best for me. Of course, they're also way harder to come up with.
Yeah.
But I try to build stuff like that myself.
Once I really said that I wanted a DeLorean from Back to the Future because I love Back to the Future, and since then, like, people have just been sending me DeLorean blueprints. I have so many DeLoreans in my folder now because I once said that I like it, and now everyone in the community is sending me DeLorean builds. I mean, I don't hate it. It's lovely, but it's like enough with the DeLoreans already.
I've seen that happen in real life too, where somebody says, I like this thing, and then they're just showered with presents of that type for the rest of their life.
Yeah, or when you tell your mom that you'd like a specific type of food, and then you basically only get that type of food for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's hard.
All right, let's jump to the next one. It comes from PlumppShady, who asks, how far do you guys plan? Do you know what you're doing with the game 6 months from now, a year, 2 years? Do you guys have a roadmap of sorts? Would you ever be confident one day in saying the game is fully completed and no longer needs updates? So there's quite a few questions in that question.
Yeah, sneaky. But I think it also makes sense to sort of talk about them in relation to each other. So we've now been working on this game for many, many years. Personally, it's 6.5 years now, and I don't see the pool of good ideas running out. If anything, it's expanding faster than we can implement it. So that's one thing. There's also very different size in the suggestions. Sometimes you'll wake up with a great idea, you'll talk to the team, and then we implement it the same day. And other times it's a really good idea, a really great idea, but then it takes several months, maybe even years to implement. So then we might plan for it out in the future or put it in the idea backlog. So that's the general response. The more specific is that we try to concentrate on the update we're doing. So we'll find a topic for the update or some things we want to achieve in that update, and then we plan that ahead for the full update with some wiggle room, and then get started. But often there's things being made which won't make it into the current update as well. So yeah, it depends, and in general we are working one update at a time with a lot of ideas in the backlog.
All right, cool. And thank you to the people complimenting my landing as well. I hope you both enjoyed the answer to that actually very good question and my sick 3-pointers with that mech.
Where's the mech now?
There we go. Or mech. I don't know if it's a mech. I don't know my... That's a mech, right? When you're sitting inside a robot, isn't that like what the fuck is a mech?
I think that's my understanding at least. And I think this one is really cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's a previous build challenge winner.
Yeah,
I just have a bunch of build challenge. I'm just playing old build challenge builds right now. Do not be fooled. I did not build any of this. Does it walk? Not
That's
really.
It
Hops. It can hops like this. All right. Let's take a new question from Waveman, who asks, is there any information you can give about when 1.7 will release? And I can tell you the same thing I said during the last stream, and that is that we are aiming for early November, and I'm really emphasizing aiming here, because I know people have a tendency to be like, early November confirmed 100%. It's not the case.
Just clip that, and you just said that.
Yeah. Now someone's gonna clip only me saying that. That's how it works. But that's the only real answer we can give right now. Is we're aiming for early November. Yeah. And
there's no changes in the plan compared to last time, so
no.
That's good at least.
Yeah. Mono asks, is it possible to have mouse aim controls for airplanes specifically? How hard would it be to add it?
Maybe. I can say that it is something that we are very interested in and are also looking into. But I think it's pretty safe to say that it's not going to happen for 1.7, but even that can change. So stay tuned, I guess. We'll see.
All right. Intriguing. Then we got 059YX, who just gets straight to the point and asks, why are hinges so weird with input?
Yeah, so that's an old issue, I would say. It's first of all, it's called steering hinges, and that indicates that it's made for steering first and foremost. And I think that's also where we have succeeded. I think they are pretty good for steering. They need to be able to steer a wide array of vehicles as well, race cars as well as tanks and airplanes even. So there's a lot of things it needs to be able to do. So yeah, the way input is handled is that it's being modulated by the hinge itself. Alternatively, it could have been handled in the seat, and then we would have needed a lot more UI to handle that, I think. It's quite a complicated topic, but I think the simple answer is steering hinges are weird because they're made for steering. And I don't know, maybe we'll add something that doesn't have that behavior in the future, but it's too soon to make any promises or anything. But we are at least aware of the limitations and also prospects in finding a solution.
All right, so basically steering hinges are weird because they're made for steering.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an on the point, straight to the point question deserves a straight to the point answer, I think. So that's perfect. And we got Giyu asking us, can you tell us if we are getting a UI update?
Yes, you are. But perhaps not the full overhaul that you're expecting. So we would like to improve the UI, but as you might also have noticed, Trailmakers is a very big game with a lot of UI. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be gradually, I think, and we will be spending time where it makes sense. So it might not be the clear builder dialogue that gets the highest priority or something like that. There might be some very specific UI screens that are very rarely visited that might never get updated. But we want to improve it, and we think there's room for improvement, and we're excited to show you these things once we get further in development.
Cool. Excited to see that. Slimescammer asks, what features do you want to add in but aren't feasible due to technical limitations?
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of things. We already talked about the tank threads, and I think that's a very good example. Could also mention higher player support as an obvious one. A higher complexity, we of course know, is something that people would love. We would also love to see creations of higher complexity. Let me say that. We also think there could be a lot of fun in rope physics, but that's also very complicated with all the flexibility that the game has and the huge worlds and the multiplayer support and so on. There's a lot of technical challenges that needs to be solved. So even though they might exist in other games, if that game is a single player, it might already be infeasible for us to do in a multiplayer game. So, yeah.
All right. Ghost Raptor asks, would it be feasible to have some replicas of... I don't know why so many people on our Discord says feasible. It's never a word that I've used before, but so many of our questions has the word feasible in it. I don't know why. But anyway, here's the question from Ghost Raptor. Would it be feasible to have some replicas of real-life racing circuits or perhaps tracks inspired by them?
Yeah, I think the answer really depends on what you mean replicas, because if you make something very simple or very far from reality, then sure, that could happen. But if you want to have every grain of sand be accurate, then it's a lot less likely. But more to the point here, I think that our interest in Trailmakers is not to replicate reality. It is to create a fun experience, and that means that we will have things that are not in the real world. We can do more things than we can in the real world, but it also puts some oddities to the Trailmakers world. That means that maybe you won't appreciate driving on a racetrack with the exact specifications of a real world one. So I think if we're going to make more racetracks, and I'll not make a comment on that, then we would do it so it matches the gameplay and game mechanics of the game.
Are you telling me that a bird with a KFC bucket on its head flying another bird, kind of a spaceship airplane kind of thing, is not realistic? Like what I'm doing right now. There
might be a thing or two that's not feasible. But I mean, get some of the brainy people on the task. Maybe they'll prove me wrong.
This is realism to me. Okay. Let's take the next one from anismok SeatLock, who first says hello! Exclamation mark. Hello.
Hello.
How are you guys handling the situation for more odd with part 3x3, etc.? Because isn't that a thing everyone wants?
I think it's a bold claim to suggest that something is that everybody wants. But there's also things like prioritization, right? Just because everybody wants a thing doesn't mean that we'll be doing it. But yeah, that's part of the answer. Maybe the answer they're looking for is that our focus is not on odd with parts, because they don't interact well with certain other parts of the game. For example, mirror mode currently does not support odd with structures, and it will be a lot of work to get that working. So there's some systems that they don't play well with. That being said, we are constantly discussing new blocks, and we are also from time to time adding odd width blocks. So I wouldn't say that we won't do it, but perhaps not expect us to make an odd width version of every existing even width block at the moment. And I know that's particularly painful to hear if you're into building motorcycles with the motorcycle seat. But yeah. It's hard to do everything at once.
Okay. Well, there you have it. And I'm sure people are excited that you're talking about us discussing new blocks constantly, because that is what people, maybe not everyone wants, like anismok claims, but surely.
Yeah,
new block.
I mean, I understand what they're going for, right? Everybody like more blocks is better. That's hard to be against. With one small caveat, and that is that the inventory doesn't really support the number of blocks we have right now. So that's also something to keep in mind. But yeah,
there's probably not a single member of the community who would be angry that new blocks were added, unless it was a block they didn't like.
No.
But no one is saying no more blocks.
No, definitely not. We would like to add more blocks, and I think it's safe to promise at this point that we will have a new block at least for 1.7, possibly more. But now I'm already using the word promise, and I wouldn't like to hear that from anybody else. So at this point, I should probably move on to the next question.
Next question. Suspicious Chicken asks, is adding a collapsed piston to build mode still confirmed to not be happening? If so, can you explain why?
Yeah, so first of all, I can say that it's not in the plan. I wouldn't say that it will never happen, but it's currently unlikely to happen because there are certain systems in the game that relies on having an idea of the maximum size of a structure, roughly. And if pistons are collapsed in the builder, you will be able to expand them and thus very easily get to a situation where you've broken that assumption of the max size. And that will make repairing and other systems work potentially quite bad. I think the rocket is sliding off your platform there.
Oh! It almost landed itself.
Right, so don't wait up for a compressed piston. But I will also say that if you sort of build an S shape where the piston is collapsing to expand your structure, you can sort of get around it. I've been doing that myself. But yeah, be a little bit careful with it because your structure will probably behave worse if it expands beyond its initial bounds. I
am stuck in a loop where I'm just spawning infinite rockets here. I'm trying to get all of them to delete
It's a nice looking rocket though.
Yeah, it's a good, I think it's a Saturn something.
Yeah.
I'm not a rocket expert or a scientist for that matter. Okay, so the last question this time around is from SNIPE, who asks, is there a reason that smoke from the raw dragon and large engines exists, since I don't really see any purpose of it other than creating a lot of lag with multiple of them? Are there any plans to change that in the future?
Yeah, so currently we don't have any plans, but we are aware of the request. We hear that from a lot of players. And there's two reasons why it hasn't happened. One is again down to the very boring answer of prioritization, right? Do we want to focus on creating new blocks, for example, or do we want to modify the existing ones? And there is a decision to be made. But specifically in relation to the smoke from these blocks, the thing is that we also think there's a lot of good coming from having that smoke. In particular, we like the effect it gives. If you see an enemy out in the distance, you can sort of see the trajectory, see the trail, and we think it adds a lot of coolness to jet fighters as well. So there's like a balance there, and I don't think we've hit the spot and sort of found the perfect balance between those two extremes, but yeah, so it's a thing that we want to continue to improve, but I don't have a specific plan for it at the moment, or we don't have that. So hopefully we'll get there, but I can't tell you when.
All right.
But we appreciate the suggestion as well and getting reminded of these things. So we want to make our decisions based on what the players like.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's the questions from Dev Diary, and remember everyone, they will be edited together and it will be put on YouTube. So if you have a friend out there who couldn't make it for the stream, fear not. Everything will be uploaded to our YouTube. And that just leaves one more thing, because someone left this folder on my... I was supposed to get the builds for the stream, but someone left this folder on my USB drive. I don't know if you can see my screen.
I actually can't see the text there, so I assume it's fine.
It says super secret, don't show this on stream, but I feel like if someone put it on my USB drive, it's kind of their own fault.
Yeah, I don't think you should click that, Johannes.
You don't? I mean, it's my USB drive, it's my stream.
Yeah, okay, you kind of have a point there. Maybe you should.
So that'll be a lesson to all the other developers. Don't put things on my USB drives if you don't want me to show it on stream. So I see two things. I see a video and I see a picture. This picture here. What do we have to say about that? That doesn't look like something that's in the game now.
No, that's true. Yeah, I guess we can say a few things about this. I guess for the very experienced players, you might already fully understand what's going on, but otherwise it might make sense to give a few more details. So first of all, we have a gravity slider in there, and just for reference, this is the session options. So at this point in time, you could do something similar with mods, but that's only for Steam and for the people bold enough to try out using mods. And we see a lot of fun happening from that. So we decided to put that in as a server admin option to adjust on the fly. And the button to the right is to reset it back to normal gravity. Just some caveats to these things is that they will be limited to certain game modes. To not mess with the progression, but at least that's the current design. Things are subject to change, right? So that's gravity. Should I move on and talk about the two others?
Yeah, sure. What do these two mean?
I say two others. There might be a third. Who knows?
A third? Wow.
So the next one. Yeah. So the next one is something that's also been highly suggested by the community. By the way, the gravity slider has also been that. But that is the option to hide players from the other teams so they don't appear in your 3D view and also don't appear on the map. And that allows you to be way more sneaky in the battlefield. For example, I just saw a video with Giyu and JB Ryder, I believe the name was, and they specifically turned off the UI with the Control U shortcut to achieve something like this. And we would love for the players to be able to have the UI there while specifically turning this off. So again, suggested by players, and we think that makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
Finally, on this list, we have character invincibility, not to be confused with invisibility. So this means that you can now turn that on and off, where it was the opposite hard-coded previously. So for example, in airborne sandbox mode right now, I believe that if you press into something, your character is likely to die in the crash. If you don't like that, you can toggle this one on. And on the other side of the fence, if you're playing test zone, but perhaps if you're playing a modded map or something like that, and you would like to have the character death behavior, then you can turn it off. So this has been suggested in various shapes and forms, and we also think that it will add a lot of custom gameplay for the players to enjoy. And it's not too complicated to implement and bring to the players. As you can see, it's simply a toggle here from the UI perspective. There's a lot of more things going on in the background, but at least it's there. Yeah, and someone is saying in the chat, it is not structure invincibility, it is just the character. And that's a very important distinction. Making structures invincible is way more problematic because the physics system sometimes behaves very weirdly. So I don't think we're ready to introduce that, but who knows? Maybe we'll find a solution for that in the future. But for now, we take one small step.
But one giant leap for turbo kind.
Yeah, I guess so.
And the reason Rune is making clear that it's invincibility and not invisibility is because earlier when I was testing it, I clicked on it and I said to Rune, "What's up?" I clicked on this and I can still see my character. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, it's invincible,
yeah, but
not invisible.
It's quite a common misunderstanding to have. So maybe we'll also change the name of this to make it 100% clear.
I suggest guard mode, but let's see about that.
Yeah, we'll have some discussions about that, I guess. Yeah.
And then we have a video on here.
Oh, yeah.
And this video is just to show you the gravity, how it works. I recorded this earlier today. So you can see there it is in the game. And you turn down the gravity slider. And suddenly things like driving up a ramp becomes a lot easier, as you can see. Unfortunately,
then it just continues and continues and continues.
Yes. Unfortunately, I could not get in the basketball hoop. But it was quite fun to play around with. Oh.
Yeah. I specifically remember a video with Scrapman and Cosmo and Khan, I think it was, where they were doing some 0G combat with some drones. And that was achieved using the gravity mod. And now this is also coming to consoles. So
yeah, and
hopefully we'll see some more fun stuff with that.
With low gravity, that loop becomes so easy. So if you're struggling with that loop, that was like a first try for me, and I always fail it.
Yeah. Just know that you get less ground contact with the less gravity, so you might have a hard time accelerating.
But if you are the type of person who wants a lot of ground contact, what you can do is, as I do here in the video, just do the opposite thing. So now I'm turning the gravity way up, and as you can see, the car becomes a bit heavier, obviously. It literally is heavier, but as you can see, it also, like, kind of where you would go flying off the hill here, which I enjoyed. Instead of flying off the hill, you just kind of stick to the ground.
Yeah.
And I actually... Like, the low gravity was fun to play around with, but I actually really enjoyed how... Because sometimes I hear when, like, I'm driving too fast and I go flying off a ledge. And this allowed me to just stick to the ground while driving, which was a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. It's like having extreme downforce even when you're not driving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you go flying off there, you just sort of stick to the ground. But it also probably means that you drive just a tad bit slower, right? Or what?
Possibly. I mean that if you're pulled down to the point where your car is dragging along the chassis is dragging along the ground, then yeah, you will probably drive slower.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
we had a last thing on the plate that wasn't in the other image and not here as well.
We don't have an image of it, but you are free to tell everyone about it.
I think it's also work in progress, so maybe it's better to tell and not show. But we are working on getting block banning in as well. So that means that previously you would have to tell people not to use the minigun or the anchor pin or the whatever you wouldn't want in your server. Now, as a server admin, you will be able to select different types of blocks that are not possible to use in the server. And that is, of course, very good if you're playing in public servers where it's hard to enforce these rules by talking to the other players. So I can foresee that that will remove a lot of friction in many cases, and possibly it also means that people will get kicked less compared to the past.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this has been suggested by the players, but I would highly expect it to be. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time. So I'm quite convinced that players will find something interesting to do with that. And if the feature is very popular, we might even be able to expand upon it in the future. But for now, it's pretty simple. You can say this block cannot be used in the server, and then that's put into effect.
Cool. I think that's, unless you have anything else to leak, I think that was all we had on the agenda.
Yeah, I better not.
Well, you're free to do it.
We are working on a lot of exciting things that would be worth leaking. So.
You could just do like Lasse last time. He just talked about different stuff.
Yeah. No, I'll stay on the safe side this time, I think. Maybe you guys will get me next time.
All right, cool. Well,
but it was very cool to take part and also answer the questions. Every question also has a message for us to take into account, I think. So that's always interesting to read.
Well, it's really cool to have you on and get some nice answers for all these great questions, and hear you talk a little bit about what goes on in the machine room of the Trailmakers team. Thank you so much, Rune.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. See you.
You're very welcome.